You're watching BCTV, Brantford's community access station.
This is BCTV, Brantford Government Television, a service of Brantford Community Television. The following program is brought to you through the support of the Town of Brantford.
I am the founder of this wonderful organization, Shoreline Eldercare. And as you know, we have been in a 2-year lockdown from COVID. So this would have been our 13th annual celebration of healthy aging, but it is our 11th celebration of healthy aging, and we're so happy to have you all back here with us. Thank you so much for coming. And we have a wonderful program ahead for you. I hope you all enjoyed our beautiful wellness space, which gives you all kinds of opportunities of services that you can use through the years. And I hope you enjoyed our therapies, our Tai Chi, our art therapy, and our Reiki. All of those very important for healthy aging. And our wonderful food that is being provided by Woodwinds. And again, welcome to this wonderful day. We celebrate seniors. We celebrate seniors and all that they have given to this wider community. Thank you very much for all you've given through the years. And through the course of the year, starting this September again, we are going to be doing our live presentations up and down the shoreline. Our fall schedule is in the booklet, and we'll announce again later. It's going to be a wonderful schedule, so we hope you'll all come for these live presentations in Guilford, Brantford, Madison, and New Haven. And today we're going to begin by introducing our sponsors. I'll start with our sponsors that are not our main sponsors, but we have our sponsors, which are Accent Care, also known as Seasons Hospice. We have our valet sponsors, Artis, Senior Living, our silver...
Hey, park your cars, come on!
Hey, park your cars! We have RWC Attorneys and Counselors at Law, Chatham Place at Mary Wade, a beautiful new assisted living, Yale New Haven Health, Apple Rehab, Aetna, New England Stairlifts, the Towers at Tower Lane, and the Rotary Club of Brantford. Thank you very much to our wonderful sponsors who enable us to have this wonderful event for all of you to come for free. So thank you to all of them. And mainly, we have our main sponsors. This year, the main sponsors for this event are the Village at Mariners Point and Shoreline Insurance Services Incorporated. So I'm going to ask the Village at Mariners Point first to come and say a few words.
Good afternoon. My name is Kim Kelly Rubin, and I'm the Executive Director at the Village at Mariners Point. I also have Keith Benton with us today, and I have to say that it was wonderful to be able to speak to so many of you here today after a 2-year wait. It's been way too long. So for those of you that I haven't had an opportunity to speak with today, the Village at Mariners Point is a benchmark senior living community that is located in East Haven, Connecticut, that overlooks the Long Island Sound. We offer independent living, assisted living, and a private memory care neighborhood. So as we age, it's also very important that we look and consider what might be the next opportunity for us. I myself am a senior, and I've already downsized to a condo. I got rid of that house, so I'm living a life of luxury as far as I'm concerned, that I don't have any yard work anymore. So again, thank you so much for coming. It's lovely to see everyone. And next, I will hand this over to Steve Kujma, the other co-sponsor of this event. So here, take it away, Steve.
Thank you, Kim. Welcome, everybody. It's great to see a full dining room, and I hope you all realize that we expanded outside so that we could give you room to eat inside and not be on top of each other. So that was really the key, why we moved everyone outside, to make sure there was enough room in here for safe social distancing and everyone could have a good time. It's great to see you all. We have a great program scheduled. A little bit about myself. I'm born and bred in Brantford, never lived anywhere else. And I have my own agency right on Main Street in Brantford. I specialize in Medicare. Some of you might be on Medicare. If you have any interest in hearing about some alternatives, be glad to meet with you. Just give me a call. My information is right on the back of the program. You can call me anytime, set an appointment, and we can get together and I can review what your choices are. Many of you are already clients, and I appreciate you all for coming today as well. Next, I'm going to introduce all the rest of the members that put this together. It's no small feat to do this, and it took us months because of the postponement in May. So I'm going to just go through. We have at the very far end our senior specialist in real estate, Pam Kirkby. And Kristen Welton from the Alzheimer's Association. Keith Fenton from the Village of Mariners Point. Molly Stanley at Home Care Plus, Community Health Care and Hospice, formerly VNA. Vince Raganese from Downtown Medical. Kristen Welton Chris Regan from Pact Medical, I apologize. Kathy Duncan from Prime Residential Mortgage. Allison Kowalski, soon to be Allison McGuire, in 2 weeks, from Accent Care. Janice Watson from ARC Rehab at Branford Hills. And then our valet sponsor, Debbie Artinian from Artis. And of course, you all know Bernadette from Eldercare. Thanks again for coming.
Thank you all for all that you've done, the members of C. Oh, what? You have something else to say? Yes.
I have one more thing.
Okay.
I totally forgot. Just so everyone knows, Bernadette is the founder of this organization. She started 14 years ago. And sadly, in December, she's going to step down and retire from us. So we're going to have to find a new kind of leader. So we just wanted to give her something to show our appreciation for all her guidance over the years. Thank you.
Well, it's interesting that I did say before I stepped down from C, I wanted to have Lisa Sanders be our keynote speaker. And I think this is like the 4th time I've asked her. And finally, she was able to do it. Not only when we were going to do it in May, but even after we postponed it till now. So I'm really, really happy that Lisa is going to be our keynote speaker today. So, Lisa was born in July of 1956, and she grew up in South Carolina. And one of the things she loved most was detective stories, and especially Sherlock Holmes, and probably a lot of you relate to that. She went to the College of William and Mary, and she even attended bar in a local tavern, so she's very well versed at listening. She knows how to listen. After graduation, she was hired by ABC News, and she won an Emmy for her reporting of Hurricane Hugo for CBS News. But she then became interested in medicine, and so she decided to pursue a career in that field, and she went to do a post-baccalaureate pre-medicine program at Columbia University, and then applied to Yale Medical School in a slot which she calls a slot for weirdos, because she entered at 36, and she was considered a non-traditional student. But of course, she was very enriched by her other life experiences. So she completed her degree at Yale, the oldest member of her graduating class, and she then did the primary care residency program at Waterbury Hospital, and also became an attending physician at Yale New Haven Hospital. But then she started thinking about writing a column, and how would you be a doctor and also a writer, because she had that wonderful background of writing. And she began writing a column for the New York Times called Diagnosis. I don't know if you read it, but I read it every other week. It's just really interesting and exciting. So really what it was like pursuing kind of mystery again. Try to find out what's going on in someone's life and what the diagnosis is about. So it's very exciting to read. The column was also an inspiration for the 2004 television series House MD, and the fictional Princeton Plainsboro Hospital was fashioned after Yale New Haven Hospital, and she served as a consultant to that show. She also writes a blog called Think Like a Doctor, and she has produced some shows that are still on Netflix, which are about diagnosis. Some of them debuted in August of 2019. Lisa has also published books. In 2009, she published the book, Every Patient Tells a Story, Medical Mysteries and the Art of Diagnosis, about the diagnostic value of patient interviews and their neglect relative to tests. Her 2019 book, Diagnosis, Solving the Most Baffling Medical Mysteries, is a compilation of more than 50 stories that come from her column. She rises early in the morning, 4 a.m. to do her books, and 5 a.m. for her column, saying it's the time of day when she is smartest. She's very smart, but not only that, from all that I know about her, that she doesn't even know I know about her, she is an extremely compassionate doctor who listens carefully to everyone. She's married to the writer Jack Hitt and has 2 children, and I'm delighted to have her here today. Lisa.
Thank you, Bernadette. I'm so glad I got in before you got out.
Me too.
You know, I printed this in really large type so I wouldn't have to use my glasses. Those days, I'm afraid, are over. Oh, sorry. I was showing you how I printed this in 14 points so I could read it without my glasses, but turns out I can't read it without my glasses, so you'll just have to let me. Oh, yay, okay. I want to thank you all for inviting me to come and talk about something that I care about deeply, which is how important it is for you to tell your story to your doctor. Oh, I'm sorry, I still can't, I'm still not, I just have to get cozier with the mic. Okay. In that case, I'll have to lift this up. So, I want to talk about this because it's important, of course, from your perspective, because you've got a lot going on in your lives, but it's also important for you to tell your story from a doctor's perspective. I want to start by telling you a story about a woman I've come to know as a friend, but who I first met in the hospital. Let's call her Elaine. At the time, Elaine was a vibrant and charming 76-year-old woman. She is still vibrant and charming, but she's a bit older these days. She used to live here in Brantford, which is why I changed her name. She was a pistol. Of course, she was a wife and a mother, and in her spare time, a painter, a poet, a wanderer. She loved to travel. When I met her, she had just gotten back from a trip to Asia. Obviously, way before COVID made all that kind of travel unthinkable. When she got home, though, she got sick. I mean, really sick. She had a high fever. All the glands she could feel were swollen. All of her joints hurt when she moved. And she had this really painful red rash all over her legs and her trunk. It covered more than half of her body. And she suffered like this for days. No, I'm going to be fine, until her husband, who was a doctor, by the way, insisted that she go to the hospital. And he took her to Yale New Haven Hospital. The team of doctors taking care of her in the hospital asked her all the questions they could think of. Everything. They examined her very carefully, and the whole time they were thinking, trying to figure out what had caused this awful illness. Was this some kind of infection? I mean, maybe. She had a fever. Her white blood cell count, which is how one of our first reactors to infection, that was high. Her glands were swollen, and these were all signs and symptoms of a pretty serious infection. But what kind of infection? Didn't really look like anything any of the doctors had seen before. And she had just gotten back from Asia. Maybe she picked up something there. I mean, maybe. So, infection was a strong possibility, and that was really on the top of their list. But it was not the only possibility. One of the doctors on the team wondered if this could be a serious, sometimes life-threatening illness, form of allergy, called serum sickness. Has anybody ever heard of that? No, it's because we don't see it that often. In order for me to explain what serum sickness is, I'm going to have to talk about a disease we really don't hear about anymore, diphtheria. There might be a few people here who remember how really serious this disease was back in the day. It's rare now because in the 1940s, children started to get vaccinated against this disease, and it was important because it was an absolutely terrible, life-threatening, deadly sometimes illness. This bacteria, once you got it, it would form this film across the back of your throat, and children would die because no air could get past that terrible, thick, awful layer created by this bug. And the children would literally smother. I can't imagine how horrible that must have been for the children or for the parents who would sit, feeling completely helpless to take care of them. A French researcher named Gaston Ramon came up with a way to prevent this illness. He gave the infection to a horse, shot him full of the bug, let the horse get really, really sick so that their blood was filled with millions of these little bacteria. Then they would take some blood out. They would kill all the bacteria and then inject a tiny amount of these dead bugs into the children. I mean, that is kind of what vaccines are. And the children who got this vaccine, they never got the illness. And to this day, we still give children a much better version of this to protect them from diphtheria. That's why most of us have never even seen this childhood disease. But when this vaccine was still new, some of the children who got the shot developed an illness of a fever and a blotchy rash and swelling of their glands and terrible joint pain. And that's why it has the name serum sickness, because this was a sickness caused by an allergy to the serum from these infected horses. We know now that it's a kind of allergic reaction to proteins that don't come from humans. You know, we can eat them, not horse meat, but we can eat meat, that's proteins, we eat it all the time. But when you inject it into your body, well, that's a whole different story and sometimes doesn't go as well. So the doctors asked themselves, could Elaine have serum sickness, some sort of terrible allergic reaction to something she was allergic to something she'd come in contact with? I mean, Elaine had a lot of allergies. She was allergic to pollen, and she was allergic to cat dander, and she could hardly even be in the same room with certain types of dogs. She was allergic to penicillin, which is, by the way, known to cause serum sickness, but she hadn't had any exposure to any of these things. She'd been very careful, even while she was abroad, not to be exposed to anything. Her husband was being treated for a sinus infection, and he was taking penicillin, but he didn't need any help with his medicines. She never touched his medicines. I mean, they were his medicines. She had no contact with his pills whatsoever. So the team of doctors asked her about all the possible exposures they could think of. Nothing. Hadn't been around anybody who was sick, so that made infection maybe a little less likely. And she hadn't been exposed to anything that made her sick or that she was allergic to. The doctors left her room, and they were sitting around in their workroom trying to figure out what to do next and try to decide what she actually had. When the intern, that's the youngest doctor on the team, heard Elaine call her name, and Elaine signaled her, "Can she come? She'd like to speak to her alone." "One thing you didn't ask me about," she said to the intern. And I don't know if it's important, but after I got back from my trip, my husband and I had sex. He's taking penicillin. Could I have been exposed to his penicillin that way? Well, of course, the intern, who was, 28 or 29, she told me that she could feel her face burning and she knew it was bright red, in part because it seemed so awkward talking to this grandmotherly woman about her intimate life. And she also felt embarrassed because it had never occurred to her that a woman of this age might even have an intimate life. And then you throw in a dash of medical uncertainty. Can penicillin even show up in semen? And she felt like she had a full trifecta of shame. Well, she said, "Thank you," and ran back, Googled it. It turns out you actually can get exposed to penicillin in semen. Who knew? Elaine was treated for serum sickness with steroids and antihistamines, and she got better. But Elaine, man, it's all fodder for her, man. So, of course, she wrote a poem based on her experience. She calls it The Ode to Marriage. It's a lovely, very funny poem, but I'm just going to read you the last stanza. Still, I'll not give up sex just yet. No, I never will abstain. For what I've lost, I also add that I have had some gain. Yet, the next time when my partner says he's taken penicillin, I'll say, please start without me, because today I am not willing. Elaine will be so thrilled that her poem got some applause like that. I'm going to tell her. So that story, I think, to me, exemplifies how important it is to actually listen to the patient's full story. At the turn of the last century, remember the 19s back then, the most famous doctor in this country, and possibly even the world, was a guy from Canada named William Osler. He literally wrote the book on medicine at that time. He wrote a book called The Principles and Practice of Medicine. One guy, an entire book, all of medicine. Things have changed since then. But one of the things that hasn't changed was one of the main points of his teaching, which was listen to the patient. They will tell you what they have. Now, of course, I come to medicine with a love of diagnosis. That's what has always interested me. As soon as when I was a medical student, I was planning to go into urology because, I was 36 and I looked around and everybody I knew, well, the people slightly older than me, they were all approaching menopause. And I thought, you know what, there aren't any female urologists. And I bet that I would be wildly popular if I went into that. And that's where I was going. And then I did a rotation in internal medicine. And that's when I discovered that at the heart of every sort of doctor-patient interaction was this teeny-weeny Sherlock Holmes-like detective story where you had to figure stuff out. And I'm like, oh, I like urine, but this is better. And so all of my thinking, all of my teaching, all of my writing has been about diagnosis. And so when I ran across this line from Osler, I thought, this is my man. He is totally the right person because, of course, we know that diagnosis is based starts almost entirely with the patient's story. There's no way a doctor can tell what you are feeling if you don't tell them. It's absolutely, there's no test, there's no blood test, there's no CAT scan, there's nothing that can tell or show or let a doctor understand what you're feeling except you're telling them. Only you can describe how your body feels and what it's been through. And that information is absolutely essential in making a correct diagnosis. How do I know? Well, it's because there have been dozens of studies that prove this. The first ones were done in the 1970s. There were 4 doctors in practice in England, and they said, what is the most important piece of data that we get that helps us make a diagnosis? So they thought, well, it could be the patient's story. It could be the physical exam. Or it could be tests that we order. So they set out to test to figure out which ones. So they looked at 80 patients who came in who didn't have a diagnosis, and then would document, okay, this is what I think they have. After first they just heard the patient's story, then they wrote down if they changed their mind during the physical exam, and then they wrote down if they changed their mind after they got studies. And here's the thing, 78% of the time, it was the patient's story that got them where they needed to go, that got them to the right answer. 78% of the time. So that's significant. Too often, I think patients feel like they don't know anything about medicine, and so they don't have anything to offer to the discussion. Well, I'm here to tell you that that is completely wrong. You have in your head, in your power, the power to provide the most important piece of information that a doctor can have in making a diagnosis. What patients know about what has happened to them, there's no other way to find out. And that's hugely important information. So, if you learn nothing from poor Elaine and her story and poem, know this, that you need to tell your doctor what has happened to you. When you see your doctor, I don't want you to think of yourself as someone who knows nothing, who's going to seek wisdom from the doctor. I can't tell you how many patients say, oh, I don't know anything, doctor. You're the doctor, you tell me. No, I can't tell you. You gotta tell me. So when you go see your doctor, don't think of yourself as someone who knows nothing. Think of the doctor-patient encounter as a meeting of two experts. So sure, a doctor is an expert in bodies and how they work and what goes wrong. But you are the expert on this body, on how it feels and how it's gone wrong. And nobody can replace that, certainly not a doctor. Your experience, your knowledge of what you feel provides essential information to your doctor. Never forget that. Now, let me just acknowledge and admit that sometimes doctors forget that. Sometimes in the office, time pressures or other pressures distract them, but know this, your experience, your story is an important piece of data, essential to your good care. Tell your story and be confident that your story is important and really irreplaceable. Now, a patient's story obviously includes more than just how they feel. It also includes information about the world that they live in. And that's also important. So I want to tell you about another patient who I met, Anna. She's now 97, but at the time of the story, she was a pretty sprightly 93. She was very independent, still is. Lived in the house she was born in Wakefield, Rhode Island. She did her own driving, her own shopping. She chopped her own wood for the wood stove that was her only source of heat in the wintertime, okay? I mean, we're talking sprightly. She doesn't do that this year, but previously. She had two sons. One lived a town away. The other one lived in St. Louis. They were a close-knit family, and both sons and their families came and spent time with Anna, not because she needed so much help, because as you can see, she didn't, but because she was so much fun. Late in the fall, a few years ago, Anna started feeling kind of bad. Her back started to hurt. By the end of that first day, she felt kind of feverish and fluey. Her entire body started to ache. She knew she needed to see a doctor, but she didn't think she could drive herself. So a neighbor took her to a local emergency room. You know, they did the usual stuff. Talked to her, took her blood, got a chest x-ray, took some urine, nothing. They sent her home saying, oh, it's probably a virus. I'm sure you've heard that, and mostly it's true. But it was probably a virus, and she should come back if she didn't feel better in a day or two, or certainly if she felt worse. Her primary care doctor was also puzzled. He wanted to send her to the ER. 93 years old and feeling bad seemed like reason enough to him, but she wasn't interested. If there wasn't anything they would be doing for her there that she couldn't do at home, she wanted to stay home. Her son and his wife were absolutely terrified. They started sleeping at her house. She seemed to be slipping away from them. And then she became confused. And that had never happened before. That was it. They just packed her up and took her to the hospital. In the hospital, they sent off blood tests. I mean, there were some things that were wrong. She had a high white blood cell count. She had, a fever. But they couldn't find a cause. They started her on antibiotics because they were pretty sure it was an infection. But she didn't get better. She actually got worse. So then it was time for them to call her son, who lived in St. Louis. Better come and see her, the brother told him. She might die. When the son from St. Louis saw his mother, who had just seen a few months before, she was so thin. She was confused. She was delirious with illness. He was shocked. He spent the entire day with her. She was incoherent, but he kept talking, trying to somehow help her connect back to the world he was part of. He thought that would help her. He joked about having to chop the wood for her. He joked about having to buy her a furnace, finally. He made a joke about the last time they'd come out a few months earlier. At that time, her house had been infested with flying squirrels. He made Rocky and Bullwinkle jokes. Hey, maybe the squirrels gave you something. And then he thought, maybe the squirrels did give her something. So, again, to the computer he went, and he just put in two terms: flying squirrels, human illness. Boom. Epidemic typhus. It used to be typhus. I mean, when was the last time you heard that phrase? But it used to be a common cause of sickness and death. 100 years ago, just after World War I, an epidemic of typhus went through Russia, killed 3 million people. This is a terrible, terrible illness. And it's spread not really by flying squirrels, but by lice that live on flying squirrels and are happy to bite other animals as well, including human animals. And actually, because it's spread by body lice, as sanitation improved, the disease became much less common. Rare, in fact. In the past 40 years, before this lady got sick, there had only been 100 cases of this infection reported in the United States. So her son took all this in, went to the CDC, and sure enough, they had a report on it. He printed it out and showed it to the team caring for his mother. The infectious disease doctor immediately recognized the value of what the son had found. he found the report extremely compelling. They sent off blood tests to confirm the diagnosis, but more importantly, they put her on the kind of antibiotic which is specifically good for this kind of illness. It's doxycycline. Almost immediately, she started to get better. It was amazing. Within days, she was back on her feet. She was ready to be discharged to go home a week or so later when the results came back. It was epidemic typhus. Again, the team didn't know what they didn't know. I don't know about your doctor, but my doctor definitely does not ask about flying squirrels. It's up to the patient or the patient's family in this case, to recognize the possibility that other things are important. Sometimes I think doctors are worried when patients come in with all this information. Well, let me say, sometimes patients feel that doctors feel uncomfortable when they bring in all this information. And maybe that's true, and if it's true about your doctor, then maybe it's time to find a new doctor, because that's not right. We all should know, we all do know how important what patients bring from their own life, from their own body, is to making a diagnosis. Now, in my column, I have comments on the side of the thing. Anybody can write anything, and usually about halfway through any column, somebody will say, well, what about artificial intelligence? Isn't Watson going to figure all this out so that what the patient has to say won't be important then? That is absolutely wrong. Nothing can replace the patient. Nothing can anticipate where the patient's story is going to take this story overall, the story of the illness. And if AI asked every question possible, we would all be dead by the time we got all the answers in. So artificial intelligence is not going to replace the patient. Maybe someday it'll replace the doctor. Anybody here ever watch Star Trek? You know, that little tricorder that Bones would wave over somebody and it would tell them what they had? That's going to happen. We're nowhere near there right now. It's not going to happen in my lifetime. But I think that is going to happen. But that doesn't replace the patient. That just replaces the doctor. So nothing can replace the patient's story or the patient's family story for the doctor. So what I think this all means is what Dr. Benjamin Spock told patients decades ago. Actually, he wasn't writing to patients. He was, of course, writing to parents. The first line of his book, I don't know if anybody has this book, the first line of his 1946 classic, The Common Sense Book of Baby and Child Care. Does anybody know what that line is? You know more than you think you do. That turns out to be true when you're taking care of children and when you're taking care of yourself. So when you go to your doctor, remember, what you have to say is important because you know something that your doctor, lots of things that your doctor doesn't know, can't know, if you don't tell them. So remember, you know more than you think you do, and you probably know more than your doctor thinks you do. So tell your story. It turns out it's important. Thank you. to ask questions.
We have a little time. If anybody has a question, we'll have a few questions. Anybody have any questions they'd like to ask Dr. Sanders?
I just want to make one comment question. When you talk about talking to patients and telling their story, not all patients are able to tell their story, and they should always remember that pick an advocate with you to the doctors, the person that knows your story. But it happened to me. I was able to go to every round with every doctor because every doctor had a different opinion. So I had to start the story all over again because she couldn't talk.
Absolutely right. I mean, sometimes we're not able to tell our story, but the fact is that story is essential. And if the patient can't speak for themselves, like Anna couldn't tell her story, she had to rely on her sons to tell it for her. It still was essential to get that story told. Otherwise, I hate to even think what might have happened to that 94-year-old lady.
Anybody else have a question or a comment? Question? Okay, so I guess what you need to remember is tell your story and tell your story, have an advocate.
And I would also say, encourage you to take somebody with you, not even if you can tell your story. Hearing what the doctor has to say is complicated, and people often have feelings about what they're hearing. So take somebody with you, somebody who can write down what the doctor says, because that turns out to be important. And doctors don't mind that. I actually advocate, if you don't have anybody to take with you, take a tape recorder. Sometimes doctors get a little crazy about that. Tough. I mean, you need to remember it. You can't remember everything. That's important. So, tell your story and then take away to remember the doctor's answer, because sometimes not that easy to remember.
And just remember that even now in this COVID time, doctors at Yale New Haven allow one person to come in with you. So they can help tell your story.
They can. Ooh.
All right,
Okay.
So thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you, Dr. Sanders. Did everybody get a chance to buy a 50-50 raffle ticket? We're over $300 that we're going to split. So they're going to go around while you're eating lunch if you want to get in on that 50-50 raffle. It's $1 a ticket. Do whatever you want, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to have people, to keep the lines moving for lunch, we're going to have people escort each table up. So wait till your table's called, please, because it gets crazy if everyone just gets up, and then we'll be good to go. All right? Bernadette's back.
All right, we're just going to wait for lunch now, I guess. Things are... I could do it now. I could do it now.
It was right there. It's up to you.
Okay, may I have your attention a minute? I'm going to do a little switch around a little bit. But I have a very important piece that's never been done at this presentation before. What I've decided is, in my being here at sea for all these 14 years, and now getting ready to exit to this wonderful team of people who will, I'm sure, see going forward, I have established a Healthy Aging Award. It will be called the Bernadette DeJulian Healthy Aging Award, and it will be for a person between 80 and 100 plus who has continued to embrace life throughout their life, physically, intellectually, socially, and spiritually. And today I'm going to present the very first Bernadette DeJulian Healthy Aging Award. And I would like that person now, who's sitting right in front of me, to come up here. So Sylvia Rifkin is a 101-year-old adult. She resides at the Towers Senior Living Community in New Haven. She was born in Newark, New Jersey, May 25th, 1921. She was married to Jerome Rifkin and has 2 sons, 4 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. She worked for the VA hospital as a secretary for a Yale psychiatrist and then for a Yale psychologist who dedicated a book to her for her outstanding service and dedication. She was then the business manager of the Yale Child Study Center until her retirement in 1988. After her retirement, Sylvia volunteered at the Jewish Home for the Aged, the Jewish Community Center, and she helped Dr. Bernie Siegel in his workshops for the terminally ill. In her retirement, she also started tap dancing. With a group of seniors who were called the Blossom Tappers, and they were together for 20 years. Now, when our Shoreline Eldercare Alliance had their very first celebration of healthy aging at the village of Mariners Point, Sylvia was a tap dancer. Our very first time that we had the celebration of healthy aging, she and her group came and tap danced for us, and they were wonderful. Sylvia moved to the Towers in 2009, and she continues to be actively involved in numerous activities, including managing the hospitality desk and playing many challenging card games. And I just want to tell you a quick personal story. One day, I kind of oversee this hospitality desk, but Sylvia really does it because she's there and I'm not. And one day, I got caught in a traffic accident. I wasn't in the accident, but I got behind an accident, and I knew all these people were going to be waiting to hear about this hospitality desk. So I was panicked. I was like, I'm not going to get there, I'm not going to get there. So I'm calling, and I'm leaving messages. And I finally said to somebody, it's okay, Sylvia's going to be there, just let her take over. And she did. I got there, everything was done. And that was when she was already 101 years old. The reason, now, the one thing we have to understand, I think, is that we're not Pollyannish about this. Sylvia, as other people who grow old, do not have perfect lives. Sylvia faced unexpected death in her family. She had illnesses. She just recently got over COVID. She fell and broke her leg recently. As you can see, she's walking. So she's had her share of what we all get in life, good and bad. But she does embrace every day. That's the point. She embraces every day in all ways and really embraces life. So we're really, really, really happy to offer her this award. And Sylvia she's going to say a few words to you, but she also is going to, I think, read a poem of hers that recently has been chosen to be published. So here is Sylvia Rifkin. Want to stay?
Thank you so much, Bernadette. Thank you for those beautiful words. All I can say is I wish you all to reach 100 years. It's absolutely wonderful to be at this age. And people ask me, what's my secret? Well, perhaps tap dancing did help. I've just started working on the New York Times Wordle, and I've become addicted to that. And I always feel that you're never too old to learn something new. And so one of the things that I did learn recently, we had a poetry workshop at the Towers, and I hadn't written poetry before, and it was suggested that we write something called an I poem. And so in about a few minutes, which was given to us to write off the top of our heads, this is what I wrote. I have a Russian soul. My roots come from Belarus and Kiev. I cry for the people in Ukraine. When I hear classical music in the minor key, I cry. When the music dances, I too dance. My life has been long. I've seen so much good and bad. The world must get better for my grandchildren and great-grandchildren. This I wish with all my heart and soul.
Sylvia is nothing but amazing. And this is the first annual Healthy Aging Award 2022, Embrace Life, Sylvia Rifkin, September 7th, 2022. All I can say is that she's some woman. She's just great, and we're very happy to have her here today. Congratulations, Sylvia. And thank you again, Dr. Lisa Sanders. All right, lunch will be served shortly. All right, we're having people come up for lunch now. All right, someone will call your table. Oh, I guess some tables are already going. And we'll go ahead and probably skip it and get some of our fields for our honored guests.
You want to get them first?
Yeah, I'll get them.
Burn?
Yeah.
These two?
They're right in front of you. Take a moment now to just say that, you know, we had our presentation for Sylvia Rifkin, our Embrace Life Award, but I want to introduce the fact that her son, Howard Rifkin, just arrived to be a witness to that, and he's here with Sylvia now. So Howard, if you stand up with your mother. Thank you very much for coming. So we're going now, the next part of our program kind of looks like entertainment, but it's more than entertainment, because what we hope to do in this part of the program is to show you how much C loves senior centers and how much we appreciate what they do for people. Senior centers are great, and if you can join one and join in their programs, that's a great step toward healthy aging. And today we have some presentations, some demonstrations of things that happen in senior centers that keep you healthy. We also have we have somebody to talk a little bit about the BACA, which is the Branford Arts Association, and we have somebody from the Soundview YMCA to do a demonstration also. So while you're eating and while you're sitting, or we have our humorists, come on, we're going to have our little demonstration party, and the band will help with some of this, and some of this will be recorded. So the first people we're going to call up is the Guilford Senior Center Aerobic Group. And would you like to say something first? Here is the Guilford Senior Center Aerobic Group.
Good afternoon, everybody.
All right, everybody.
I've been teaching the aerobics for 40 years, and I today felt so wonderful because I saw people that were in my class 40 years ago. So I just want to leave you with this one thought. Exercise stops the aging process. So I hope you enjoy us. I'd like to just introduce the people that volunteered to help you see how much fun it is. And over here we have Karen, Josephine, Marlene, Sue, Joanne. I hope you enjoy it. You're fine. You're fine. Do it, whatever you want.
Now this might not be dancing or moving to the music, but this is another way that seniors can be involved, not only as appreciating art, but being artists or being volunteers for this group. And Frank is the president of the Branford Arts and Cultural Alliance. He's going to tell you a little bit about it.
Thank you, Bernadette. Can you hear? The Branford Arts and Cultural Alliance has been here in the Shoreline here. And our mission is to provide opportunities for the public to appreciate and enjoy art in all its forms: visual art, dance, music, and the written and spoken word. So we've been very fortunate to have been able to gather volunteers to help us accomplish the mission. And right now, the place that we're most proud of and where we're spending most of our time is the beautiful gallery that we opened on Main Street in Brantford a little over a year ago. And if you haven't been there yet, I hope that you will take the time to visit it. We have art representing over 50 of our Shoreline artists, and they paint in all the various forms of art: modern art, abstract art, representational art. But mostly it's an opportunity for artists to show their work for the public to enjoy and also purchase. So what we're trying to do is to provide as many opportunities as possible for the public to be able to really enjoy the value that art brings to our lives. Because we believe that art elevates the quality of our life. And as you grow older, you realize that the things you probably didn't have time to do when you were younger and working, you now have time to enjoy. And so I encourage you to think about participating in the activities of the Brantford Arts Alliance. Perhaps you may want to consider painting or drawing or sketching and see what the end result is. We recently discovered a woman who lives in Brantford. She's 93 years old, and she has been painting for the past 75 years. And she's amassed a collection of art, over 250 beautiful works of art. And we are working with her family now to hopefully provide access to that art so that the community will be able to see what she created, thinking that her family would be her only audience, but we realize now that the beauty of her art needs to be shared with as many people as possible. And so we're going to try to create that opportunity for her. So I hope that you will consider, first of all, coming down to the gallery, perhaps becoming a volunteer with the Brantford Arts Alliance. The gallery is always welcomes volunteers to be there when we're open, Wednesday through Saturday, and also to help us organize future activities. Our next event is actually next Saturday, the 17th of October. We're going to bring back the painted doors of Brantford along Main Street. Some of you may remember we did that 2 years ago. We had over 60 painted doors, creatively painted by artists, amateur artists, professional artists, and we have them lined up all along Main Street in the center of Brantford, and we're going to do that again next Saturday the 17th, and I hope that you'll come to visit and enjoy it. So if you have, I hope that you might be inclined to want to become more active in the organization. Stop by the gallery, and you can volunteer, you can sign up for future activities, or just come by and enjoy the art that's there for all to see and appreciate. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you soon.
And Shoreline Eldercare Alliance supports the arts, and we encourage you all to do so. So now we have the Guilford Tai Chi Group, wherever they are. Where's the Guilford Tai Chi Group? Oh, well, there they are, all dressed in white tops. All right. So this is another very wonderful form of art and form of exercise that you can partake in. You don't want anything quite as hefty as we saw the aerobic group.
We are very happy to be here. Tai Chi, or T-A-I-J-I, A-I-C, as performed in China. And also you can find the forms that we teach on YouTube. So today we're going to perform a new routine or form that was released by the Sports Administration in China in 2018, and they are suggesting that new students in China learn this form. So we have recently learned this form, and we'd like to demonstrate it to you. So we have Tai Chi for beginners, welcome all beginners, and we have Tai Chi also for more experienced players. Yes, sir. And should you have any questions about Tai Chi or what we offer at the Community Center, I'm going to be around this afternoon. Thanks.
All right, we'll ask everybody to be quiet because this is a very spiritual meditation kind of exercise. Form of exercise and spirituality. And again, I would say support your senior centers. Senior centers offer a tremendous amount of ability toward healthy aging in every way. And again, we have something else on the Shoreline now that is not the senior center, but our Soundview YMCA, which is right down the road here. And people from Madison, Guilford, East Haven, Brantford, all belong to the Soundview YMCA. And we have Colleen here now, who's going to tell us a little bit about what they have and do some low impact exercise. You want to say a little bit about the why?
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Again, my name is Colleen Villano. I am the Director of Healthy Living at the Soundview Family YMCA right here in Brantford. And we service the towns Madison through East Haven and offer a variety of classes for seniors as well as youth and adults. So if you're ever interested in stopping by for a visit, please stop by and we'll be happy to give you a tour. We do offer silver sneakers, we offer Renew Active, and we also offer Silver and Fit. So if your insurance companies offer that benefit, we'll be happy to process that for you. So we'd like to get you a little bit active today. We're going to have the band here play the YMCA. You're invited to stand up or you're happy to sit down as well. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Colleen. Thank you, YMCA. Okay, so this next demonstration I know is something you have all loved through the years. And we're going to dedicate this to Sylvia Rifkin, who was a tap dancer herself. And actually, Sylvia's group preceded your group. But she'll really appreciate your group. This is the Brantford Senior Center. Marty Ann Goglia is the leader of this group. And they're going to come out now and show us what you can do at the Brantford Senior Center.
Okay, thank you.
The Brantford Senior Center. Tappers. So once again, those are, our sort of entertainment demonstrations. But we wants to just have you all see that there's so many opportunities for seniors for healthy living. Tap dancing, Tai Chi, aerobics, going to the help with the the Brantford Art Association, YMCA. So don't sit around, move, stay healthy, and maybe you'll be like Sylvia when you get to be 101. But Sylvia was a tap dancer and she still moves pretty well. I've seen her dance in her very later years. So anyway, in the program it says that we're going to end this part with a sing-along, but actually I didn't bring the words. So we can't do that, but I think the band's going to help us play something that we can all sing together, right?
Right, we're just going to play it through first, and then we'll join in on the second chorus. How's that? All right?
Okay, yeah.
I think just think about the words.
Once again, I want to give a great big thanks to this wonderful band, the Survivors. For being part of our great day. It's wonderful. They're such a great addition. And I want to ask, we have these little slips of paper here you filled out when you went through our wellness place. And if you didn't put it in the bucket now, we're going to have a drawing at the end. So if you haven't put yours in,
come and put it in now, or raise your hand and we'll pick it up. So Janet, you want to take this around? Some people have their hands up. And also, is there anybody else who's interested in the 50-50 raffle? We're having a 50-50 raffle, and here are the raffle tickets right here. Raise your hand if you're still interested in the 50-50 raffle. So, I think that you guys can start. Yeah, you guys can start putting your things Any more people for the 50-50 raffle? Since they're doing that, you couldn't play it, but oh well. Thank you for having me. And we're getting ready now for our last presentation, which will make you all laugh. In a few minutes, as soon as we get ready to go to this 50-50, we're going to have Joy Salton come up. She's the doctor of humor.
Would there be an extra copy of the program, that little booklet someplace here that I could take?
You could take this one. That one's all written up on. This one's
okay. Yeah,
the out in front too.
2 months ago, I had my 55th MIT meeting. That's where I went to undergraduate school. And lots of things you say.
Just before we go, I'd like to say you've been an absolutely marvelous audience, and the work Bernadette has been done over the years, I think, is absolutely amazing. You wonder sometimes, what can one person do? Look around you. Look at the people in this room. Look at how everybody is benefiting from this one lady's idea. Can I put something together that they never had before? Well, she gives a round over here. She really is a great, great lady. A great, great lady.
So when I was up there, I met a guy saying, some of MIT is the same as it was when I was here 55, 60 years ago. There's all kinds of new things, and it's huge. It's spreading out, spreading up in Cambridge. But one of the things they have there is relatively new, is the thing they call the Age Institute. And I met the guy who's the head of it, a fascinating speaker. His name is Coughlin or something. And he said, listen, I told him about the band, like all of us are older folks and things like that. He was interested in that.
If Debbie is here, she's looking for Jules Bashkin. He's over here, the old gentleman. The gentleman sitting in the middle between the glass doors, he's the guy who put us together 11 years ago. And last December, he celebrated his 100th birthday.
Now, 101.
The man drives, got a girlfriend, and goes on cruises. How's that?
So anyway, I was saying, I met this coughing fella, and I told him about the band and from VR and everything else. And we were part of a radio program quite a while ago on aging in the brain and the aspect of the exercising. People can reproduce music in their lives. So we certainly have. We provided tools like this and everything else. So anyway, he said, send me a card or something like that. I'll send you a copy of my book. This is the guy's book on the subject. But I'm going to send him this.
Okay, there's probably a lot more up in the front.
Okay, yeah, I thought I'd send it. This is great. It's really quite the show.
All right, we're getting done.
wonderful presenter now who we've had for a number of years with us. She is the guru of laughter, or sometimes called the professor of laughter. Her name is Joyce Saltman. She is a professor emeritus of special education at Southern Connecticut State University in New Haven. She chose to receive her doctoral degree from Columbia because she liked the color of their doctoral gown. It was no small feat that she was able to persuade her mentor to allow her to write her dissertation on humor and adult learning. But she was way ahead of her time because we all know how important that has become. She also holds 4 graduate degrees in the fields of special education and counseling. Her innovative teaching style has led to the development of a graduate course entitled The Enchantment of Learning Through Humor, as well as a summer institute called Healing Education, Laughter, and Play. Her experience in the areas of education, therapy, and comedy has provided an outstanding background for her research on the therapeutic value of laughter. She's a lecturer on laughing and has been doing this for a long time, even on radio and TV, and now Joyce spends part of her life in Florida, where she has a whole other audience and a whole other school of laughter. Her dynamic seminars and articles, always peppered with humor, address topics such as dealing with difficult people, laughter as therapy, parenting, and relationships. Her goal is to enlighten, educate, and entertain while the audience laughs. She has been speaking on laughter and related uplifting topics since 1983. And she hopes to be able to die laughing, but not very soon. And I will tell you, just today, Joyce brought me a book of songs that she helped write that are their words put to already existing music, and they're really funny. So maybe next year we'll get to sing some of those songs because they sound. I'll copy them, and they're really funny. But most of all, I would like to say, for me, most of all, I claim Joyce as my friend, and that I think is the most important.
Hi, kids. Now, I am going to do you a great favor. I'm not going to sing. I am not going to tap dance, right? I am not going to do any of the things that you might assume that a person might come up here to entertain you. I am going to give you, I read what Bernie sent me, what she wanted me to speak about. It was not the first topic that I had chosen, right? It is not even the second topic that I had chosen, but it was the topic that Bernie chose. Okay, so we're going to talk about getting past the pandemic and back to real life. And I will tell you that for those of you who came to me earlier and said, oh, are you going to be giving the same talk when you're in Guilford at SIL next week? No, that is one of the talks that I was hoping to give today. That talk is going to be to be or not to be single. And it's going to be all about the difference between singles and marrieds for those of you who think the other one is preferable. You will find out that that is not always the case. All right? Now, I do want to tell you, before I get started with my official talk, that they are opening a new restaurant called Karma. It has no menu. You get what you deserve. Now, before I get started, I would like to ask for a few volunteers. So let me tell you what kind of people I want. I want a couple of people up here who had not such a terrific day. Somebody who was not catapulted out of bed this morning with the words, wow, a conference where we can be inside all day and it's supposed to rain, right? Just come come on up. I promise I won't embarrass you, won't cost you anything. Just come on up if you had not a terrific morning before you got here. I have many categories. Come on up. Okay, how about a lousy week? Anybody have a lousy week so far? Come on. Come on. Rotten month, anybody? Just come on up if I hit your category or one that's close by to your category. How about a rotten year? Anybody have a rotten year so far? Come on, come on. Oh, once you're here, don't worry. Okay? How about a rotten decade? Anybody have a 10-year? Come on up. Oh, we want you. Come on. Okay, is there anybody here who has not been getting enough lately? Now, you know, it could be enough sleep, enough money, enough of anything. Anybody else wants a little extra something who's willing to come up and get it? I promise we will not embarrass you. Just come on up. We can take as many of you as want to be up here. Just come on up. You're going to get a little something extra. Anybody else? Jill, I saw your hands up before. Come on. No. Come on. I know, I saw you. No, you're coming up because you raised your hand. Anybody else? Would you please help Jill come up? She's getting old. Beautiful. Anybody else want a little extra something? Okay, we're going to hold hands across the front here for a little mutual support. Just hold on the mic here. Just hold hands across the front, okay? Okay, now, those of us who are up here would like those of you who are seated to know that we know you're liars. It is not possible that anybody in this room has not had at least one bad day, right? One missing collates, one need for fiber, right? One need for a toilet quicker than you could reach it. But these honest folks came all the way up here, not knowing what was going to be required. So I would like you, all of you, to give these people the best, loudest, most fabulous standing ovation of your lives for these people who have had not such a good day. Very poor. Okay? My people up here could not keep it up. I only asked them to hold up their arms. So I don't know what you were thinking about. Okay, they are going to keep their arms up, and you all are going to now give them a rousing, cheering, standing ovation. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, let's go! I want you all to know you did a very good job, which shows that even older people can learn. That's what we're trying to show, that older people can learn. I'm going to let these few honest folks go to their seats, okay? But I do want the rest of you that at any time one of you needs a standing ovation, all you need to do is get up and say, I need a standing ovation, and I'll stop whatever I'm talking about and we'll give it to you. Okay? But there is a condition to this. You cannot get up and be wimpy about it. I don't want to see somebody get up and say, oh, you know, maybe I can stand ovation. You got to get up and say, I want a standing ovation. And if anyone's having an infertility problem, asking for standing ovulation will work as well. I will say, having checked the room, I don't think too many of you are having that problem, but one never knows. Now, I am going to be talking to you briefly about what it was like going through this pandemic, for those of you who somehow missed it. And I don't think that's really too possible for anybody. One of the things that I found and I really loved was a public notice. This is not a joke. I got this it was from Thursday, November 7th, 1918. Okay? The public notice from the Corporation of the City of Kelowna, which is apparently in British Columbia. All right? And it said, public notice.
I'm from there. It's called
Kelowna.
Yes.
Oh, that's how you pronounce it. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, it said, public notice. Notice is hereby given that in order to prevent the spread of Spanish influenza, all schools, public and private, churches, theaters, moving picture halls, pool rooms, and other places of amusement and lodge meetings are to be closed until further notice. All public gatherings consisting of 2 or more are prohibited. And this was signed by the mayor of Kelowna, right? 1918. So, when people say there's nothing new under the sun, even what we went through for the last 2 years was certainly not anything new. Now, what was really wonderful is a lot of things, as we all know, were closed. And I love this. Somebody was nice enough to send this to me, and it said, not everything is canceled. Sunshine is not canceled. Spring is not canceled. Love is not canceled. Relationships are not canceled. Reading is not canceled. Naps are not canceled. Devotion is not canceled. Music is not canceled. Dancing is not canceled. Imagination is not canceled. Kindness is not canceled. Conversations are not canceled. And hope is not canceled. So we recognize that we made it through those 2 years. And the funniest one that I got was somebody gave me this fabulous definition, and we'll all appreciate it. Many of the places that we're still going are requesting that we wear masks. And I've noticed a number of the people today, including our speaker, was wearing a mask. People feel safer with masks, even people who have been obviously vaccinated. But this one you will relate to. It is called an airgasm. Did you ever hear that word? An airgasm is the intense pleasure of leaving a public place and taking off your mask. Now, there were a lot of jokes. And I am not going to bore you with all the pandemic jokes because I did those on Zoom for 2 years. And there were enough pandemic jokes to last a lifetime. Having said that, I will tell you my favorite pandemic joke. My favorite pandemic joke was about the husband who had a virtual prostate exam and now cannot find his phone. That one really appealed to me. When I read that one, I was laughing for a long time. Okay, somebody wrote, romance novels written during COVID-19 will be like this. And then she slowly slipped her mask down, revealing her warm red lips and her blushed face. And as their eyes met, he gently removed her gloves. And over the 2 years that we had to deal with the pandemic, most everything was the same. The first year is the second year, only the second year. Most of us had toilet paper, right? It is unbelievable to me that given the number of people that I know who belong to Costco or BJ's, how many of you have accounts at Costco? How many of you go to BJ's? How many of you have a garage filled with 12 rolls at a time of White Cloud or one of those, right? That will never happen again, right? We're never going to be without toilet paper again. I do know, there used to be a very bad joke about somebody was in the ladies' room and she asked the person in the next stall, do you have any toilet paper? And the person said, no. She said, well, do you have $1? So the woman said, yeah, I do, and handed her 4 quarters. Those are the kinds of things you can't prepare for enough, you know. Now, of some of the other really marvelous jokes that I had heard, had nothing to do with COVID, but because we're in times really thinking a lot about health situations, I have gotten for you some health questions and answers, and this is by Dr. Kenmeister. And I guarantee you that we know Lisa Sanders left, and that is fortunate, because I would not have been able to read these if Dr. Sanders was still here. Now, apropos, just so you know, Dr. Lisa Sanders does indeed run these columns that she mentions, and one of her columns talks about very strange disorders, and does anybody know what this could be? And people write in, and if they get the right answer of this far-fetched thing, they receive a copy of her book autographed. My son sent in the right answer and got her book. So when I saw that Lisa Sanders was going to be speaking here, I wrote to Stephen on the email, and I said, is this the same Lisa Sanders that you had gotten the book from? And he said, yes. And he loves her. And he said, she'll remember me because I kept annoying her to purchase other books to give to my staff. He's a cardiologist in Bennington, Vermont. So he appreciated her book, and I printed out his email to me. Now, speaking of emails, by the way, email is a great thing, as we all know, because it helps us keep in touch with some people. And as it happens, my son is now 54. And I told this to Lisa. Lisa talks about how she decided to go to medical school when she was 36. One day, my son called me up. He was 28 years old. He calls me up, and he was a psychologist. And he says to me, Ma, this is bullshit. If I want to help people, I might as well be a doctor. I said, go ahead, I'll pay for medical school. And he went to University of Vermont Medical School, and he has been a cardiologist ever since then. So there's never a time that you should not pursue. And that's one of the things I love about how marvelous it is to be getting older. Number one, I got to be 79 in July. And what is wonderful about 79 is, number one, it's not 80. I like that a lot. But second of all, when you are this age, you no longer have to impress people, right? And I want to pass on a quote that I really love, and I've tried so hard when I'm counseling people to share this with them. It says, you will worry less about what others think about you when you recognize how seldom they do. Now just think about it, right? You worry about what you're wearing, how your hair looks, how your makeup is, how your teeth are. Most people will say, oh, look at how she's dressed, and that passing thought is gone in a half a second. So what, right? Do not worry about what other people think of you. Don't even worry about what you think of you, because that'll change. The other nice thing about getting older is we don't have to bullshit people anymore. Right? I mean, you tell people as it is. If they don't like it, then they won't call you again. And that will be a help. But when my son turned 45, I sent him an email that morning. And I wrote to him, dear Stephen, you're 45 today, and I want you to know I have a Jewish mother's dream. I have a son who's a doctor and a daughter who's a New York attorney. And Stephen wrote back to me, and I have a Jewish son as dreamer, a mother living in a different state. So if anybody is worried about not having any humility, those of you who have children, just ask them about anything, what they think of you, right? And you will get, if they're honest with you, you will find out that it's good to be in a separate state. Okay, so here is a health question and answer session, and I thought these were particularly good, so I copied them out for you. I've heard that cardiovascular exercise can prolong life. Is this true? And the doctor writes, your heart is only good for so many beats, and that's it. Don't waste them on exercise. Everything wears out eventually. Speeding up your heart will not make you live longer. That's like saying you can extend the life of your car by driving it faster. Want to live longer? Take a nap. Now, I will tell you, I am taking classes in Zumba, and I was doing water aerobics, and I, believe in all those things. But friends of mine have often asked me why I don't join a gym. And I tell them the truth, which is I hate gyms, and I hate exercise machines, and I mostly hate any kind of real exercise that doesn't look like dancing, right? My thinking was, I've read all these articles that say, if you exercise regularly, you add 7 years to your life. My feeling is, why do I want to live 7 years longer doing something I hate to do? That's why it's great that we get to see demonstrations of tap dancing and Zumba and aerobics and Tai Chi and the things that we saw today, because the people who are doing them obviously are enjoying them. And the things that they're not enjoying, hopefully they're doing less of, right? That's good thing to follow. Okay, here's the next question. Should I cut down on meat and eat more fruits and vegetables? Gentlemen, if you could talk a little lower. Should I cut down on meat and eat more fruits and vegetables was the question. You must grasp logistical efficiencies, is what the physician says. What does a cow eat? Hay and corn. And what are these? Vegetables. So a steak is nothing more than an efficient mechanism of delivering vegetables to your system. Need grain? Eat chicken. Beef is also a good source of field grass. All right, here's the next question. I hope you're all following these very important nutritional. Okay, question. How can I calculate my body fat ratio? Okay, answer. Well, if you have a body and you have fat, your ratio is 1 to 1. If you have 2 bodies, your ratio is 2 to 1, etc. Okay, here's another good question. What are some of the advantages of participating in a regular exercise program? Answer. Can't think of a single one, sorry. My philosophy is no pain, good. Here's another. Aren't fried foods bad for you? Answer. You're not listening. Foods are fried these days in vegetable oil. In fact, they're permeated in it. How could getting more vegetables be bad for you? Next, will sit-ups help prevent me from getting a little soft around the middle? Answer, definitely not. When you exercise a muscle, it gets bigger. You should only be doing sit-ups if you want a bigger stomach. Is chocolate bad for me? Answer, are you crazy? Hello? Cocoa beans, another vegetable. It's the best feel-good food around. Is swimming good for your figure? If swimming is good for your figure, explain whales to me. Is getting in shape important for my lifestyle? Answer, round is a shape. Somebody did suggest, by the way, that instead of talking about I'm going to the John, you should name your toilet Jim. So you can tell people I'm going to the gym now. Now, as we are senior citizens here, I did copy down for you some perks of being over 50. And I'm going to read to you my favorites on this very long list. Okay, you ready? We're all over 50. Those of you who aren't will be soon. Kidnappers are not very interested in us. People call at 9 p.m. and ask, did I wake you? Things you buy now won't wear out. You can eat dinner at 4 p.m. and no one questions it. You can live without sex, but not without your glasses. You sing along with elevator music and remember the words. I don't have this on this list, but we remember cursive writing. We remember learning grammar. And we lived in an era where a single person could be he or she, not they. You can tell I'm a teacher. Okay? Here's another. Your joints are more accurate meteorologists than the National Weather Service. And your secrets are safe with your friends because they can't remember them either. Okay, here's one. We can have, this is now that COVID is over, people are still being a little more careful, which is also why Bernie said the tables are farther away from each other than they used to be, and trying to allow for a little closer to social distancing so that we're not in very close proximity with hundreds of people as we often have been. And it said we can have gatherings of up to 10 people without issues. But I don't know 10 people without issues. I don't think I even know 2 people without issues. I'm at a place in my life where errands are starting to count as going out on a date. That was happening, wasn't it? I know it. Okay, I don't know who needs to hear this right now, but if you're going through a tough time, don't cut your bangs. Okay? During COVID, there was just not enough time in the day for all the things I didn't do. Right? Whatever happened to all the good excuses we had? No, I can't possibly get to that. There's just too much going on, right? We had so much time. We had almost 2 years of so much time. How many of you got done all the stuff on your to-do list from the month before? How many of you decided it wasn't worth it? I decided a long time ago that paying $7,000 a year, and this is not a joke, for 3 storage units in Hacienda Storage is better than what it would cost me for therapy to have to go through all this stuff and get rid of it. Right? So sometimes as we get older, we have to prioritize what is really worth spending our time on. And there's no question but that spending our time with friends has to be worth a lot more than however much time you could spend going through things. I gave my daughter a large sum of money, true story, because she will be the one to clean out my 2 houses and my 3 storage units, and I gave her many thousands of dollars so that she can hire somebody to get rid of it all. And I said to her, Beth, I said, you know, there are 2 sets of sterling silver in one of those storage units. She said, that'll be nice for them. Okay. When Isaac Newton stayed at home to avoid the 1665 plague, he discovered the laws of gravity, optics, and invented calculus. So what have you done? And then, of course, my favorite question to the universe is, dear universe, when I asked if my day could get any worse, it was a rhetorical question, not a challenge. Now, one of my friends who happens to be a marvelous writer and who has her columns in many of our Connecticut newspapers because she does the theater critic. Her name is Bonnie Goldberg, and she doesn't have any idea that I'm going to read this today, but it was so really perfect for our gathering. It's called The Mysterious FOMO. After almost 2 years of fighting the mighty foe of the COVID pandemic, we are all probably suffering from a new and previously unknown ailment, FOMO, F-O-M-O. This new symptom is likely to attack you without warning, out of the blue, with few signs for what is about to creep into your psyche. FOMO is a longing for experiences and events that have the power to make your life better than it presently is. FOMO is that insidious danger, the fear of missing out. F-O-M-O, fear of missing out. Admit it. During the last shutdown of life, you have longed for in-person get-togethers, birthday parties, picnics, weddings, social events with family and friends, especially holiday celebrations. Maybe you haven't missed appointments for root canals with your dentist, but staying at home alone has really sucked, even with your friendly pets by your side. And that lack of physical contact, the hugs and kisses that marked us as socially starved individuals who love contacts, who love love, had been brutal. Watching live theater is wonderful again. Even watching third graders playing soccer, dining in a restaurant, attending a religious service, grooving at a concert of your favorite crooner, all in person. Zoom had its moments, but feeling alive beats physically every time. So grab your mask and your hand sanitizer and boldly venture into the world. FOMO victims unite. And as we were all victims of feeling like we were missing out because because our kids weren't coming to visit as often, our friends weren't coming to visit, people were doing work where we used to have colleagues in a workplace. People were now doing their work from the phone, and many of them have decided not to go back, right? And that's just going to be another shortcoming, unfortunately, when you go to the offices. As you know, they're not staffed as well as they used to be, and there are many longer lines for pretty much everything. So when we're talking about all of this, it is true that during COVID, most of us were missing even people we detested. Isn't that the truth? Didn't you miss the people who used to annoy you? The people who used to sit next to you and slurp their food? Now you couldn't see them, you couldn't hear them, you couldn't touch them. That was very sad. So people did all kinds of things to compensate, and some of them were not that good. I, for one, found pretty good compensation. I love Aldi's peanut butter cups. So I ate those for breakfast. And it's a very nice way to start your day. After all, the peanut butter has protein. And the chocolate, of course, has calcium, so we couldn't do much better than that. Now, what people are complaining about now, right, aside from long lines and things, is inflation, right? Where everybody was bitching and complaining about we couldn't go anyplace, we couldn't see anybody. Now all people are talking about is inflation. Here's how bad inflation is. My neighbor got a pre-declined credit card in the mail. CEOs are now playing miniature golf. ExxonMobil laid off 25 congressmen. I saw a Mormon with only one wife. McDonald's is selling the quarter ouncer. Angelina Jolie adopted a child from America. Parents in Beverly Hills fired their nannies and learned their children's names. A truckload of Americans were caught sneaking into Mexico. A picture is now only worth 200 words. Called to get a blue book value on my car. They asked if the gas tank was full or empty. Now, years back, I was speaking in San Diego at a conference of the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. And I told the group, because my husband had had a stroke a year and a half before that, and they knew me, and they of course knew my husband, because he used to come to the conferences with me. And I said to the group, well, I just want you to know I've not had an orgasm in a year and a half. Now, I grant you that's an unusual way to start a talk, but my friends are mostly used to me, right? I said, the only time I have an orgasm now is when somebody tells me a joke I have never heard before. So for the 4 days of that conference in San Diego, everybody was coming over to me, trying to tell me a joke I had never heard before. One of those jokes, to date, is still one of the best jokes I've ever heard, and I'm going to share a few jokes with you, but that will be my first. A man takes his dog to the movie theater. He sits the dog in one seat, he's sitting in the other seat. Every time there is a sad scene in the movie, the dog is crying his eyes out. And every time there's a funny scene in the movie, the dog is laughing his ass off. And at the end of the movie, the man is leaving the movie theater with his dog, and the manager comes running down the aisle and he says, "Wait, don't leave. I've got to talk to you. I have been watching your dog. Your dog understood every nuance of every emotional scene in this movie. I've never seen anything like it. To tell you the truth, I am amazed." And the owner of the dog says, "You're amazed. I'm even more amazed. He hated the book." Another of my favorite dog jokes is about the man who has a very bright talking dog, and he brings the dog into the bar. And the dog is sitting on one stool, he's sitting on the other stool. He orders a drink for the dog, a drink for him. They both have their drinks. And both are animatedly talking to the bartender, the dog and the gentleman. And now he orders a second drink for the dog, a second drink for him. Again, they're talking to the bartender, and finally the guy says to the bartender, "Look, can you watch my dog for just a minute? I really have to go to the bathroom. But do not take your eyes off this dog or he will run right out of the bar." And the bartender says, "No problem." The guy goes to the bathroom. He comes out 5 minutes later. The dog is gone. He says to the bartender, "What happened to my dog?" He said, "I'm really sorry. He got very busy in here, but don't worry. I gave your dog a quarter and I sent him to the corner where there is a newspaper stand. And I asked him to buy me a newspaper, so I'm sure he'll be back in a couple of minutes." Well, the owner of the dog goes running out of the bar, runs to the newspaper stands on the corner. He says to the newspaper man, "Have you seen a dog?" He said, "Yeah, a dog came by a couple of minutes ago, but he ran across the street to the park." So now the owner of the dog goes running across the street to the park, and sure shooting, there is his dog making it like crazy with another dog. He grabs his dog off the other dog and he says to his dog, "My God, what happened to you? You never did this before. How come you're doing it now?" The dog looks at him and said, "I never had the money before." Now, I'm sure you've heard about the husband and wife who go to the doctor for their annual checkup together. And the husband gets examined first, and the doctor says, "Well, you look pretty good. Do you have any problems you want to discuss with me?" And the guy says, "Well, to tell you the truth, I find that when I have intercourse, one time I am sweating to death, and the next time I make love to my wife, I am freezing." And the doctor says, "Gee, I don't know that I can help you with this, but thank you for sharing." Lisa would approve of that, to tell your story to the doctor, what really is the problem, right? Well, now the wife comes in, and the doctor examines the wife, and the wife is in great shape, and the doctor says, as he did before, "You're in great shape. Do you have any problems?" She says, "No, everything is fine." "Well, your husband shared with me that when you have intercourse, sometimes he is dying of heat, and another time he's freezing to death." And the wife says, "Well, yeah, that's not surprising. The first time is in December, and the second time is in July." It could happen, right? Okay. I've been hearing a lot of jokes lately about Ukraine and Russia and what's going on. What is going on is tragic, and there is no way, but we have to believe, as we did know during COVID, that things have got to get better because things cannot stay at this horrifying level. And it's really important to be able to laugh no matter how sad things are. We have to always know that things will improve, that we just have to hang in and do what we can to help whatever the cause is, and things will get better. But what's nice about most of the tragedies that go on is we get jokes about them. So I'm going to share with you 2 Russian jokes that are pretty funny, and if we take them out of the context of this is a tragic thing that's going on and just appreciate it as a joke, it could be about anything, even though right now it isn't. All right? A soldier, is in the square in Moscow, and he sees a group of soldiers coming down, and he sees a nun right next to him, and the nun is wearing this big, enormous skirt. And he says to the nun, "Would you mind if I hid under your skirt just for a couple of minutes? And the nun says, no problem. He gets under the skirt, the soldiers walk by, and afterwards, a few minutes, the guy comes out from under the skirt and says to the nun, I want to thank you so much. I really want to thank you, because I do not want to get conscripted to go to Ukraine. He said, but I do want to tell you that while I was under your skirt, I noticed that you have 2 very beautiful legs. And the nun says, well, thank you very much. And if you had looked up a little higher, you would have seen 2 very beautiful testicles. I don't want to go to Ukraine either. Well, and since we're on the subject of Russia, and so far you're okay still, right? Okay. No. Putin invited one of the leaders from Africa to come and see how they test courage in Russia. And he says, I'm going to show you our test of courage. And he takes a bullet, puts it into one of the chambers in a gun, brings him around, puts it to his head, shoots, and nothing happens. He said, this is Russian roulette, and this is how we test courage here in Russia. Would you like to try it? And the African leader says, sure. So he twists it around, goes to his head, nothing happens. Everybody's great. A year later, the African leader invites Putin to come to Africa. And he says, I'm going to show you our test of courage here in Russia. He said, great. And he opens up a door, and there inside is an array of 6 of the most gorgeous women you can possibly imagine. One more beautiful than the next, stark naked. And Putin says, well, how is this a test of courage? He said, well, you are going to choose the woman who is going to perform oral sex. He said, how is that a test of courage? He said, one of them is a cannibal. Bernie, they're handling it. They're okay. Now, I am going to tell you one other of my absolute favorite jokes. And this joke it's a lovely story in that the granddaughter comes to visit her grandmother after the grandpa has died and said, Grandma, I am so sad that Grandpa has died. You know how much I loved him. And the grandmother says, yes, sweetheart, and you know you were his favorite grandchild. And the granddaughter says, oh, that's really nice, but I miss him a lot. But tell me, Grandma, how did Grandpa die? She said, well, sweetheart, to tell you the truth, he had a heart attack last Sunday while we were making love. And the granddaughter looks at her grandmother and says, while you were making love? Grandma, Grandpa was 95. You're 92 years old. No wonder he had a heart attack. She said, well, no, sweetheart, we made love every Sunday because we discovered that the rhythm of the church bells was exactly perfect. He would go in on the ding, out on the dime. In on the ding, out on the dime. And he'd be alive today if it weren't for that damn ice cream truck. Now, I have a feeling that there aren't any questions, but I am here to entertain if there are any questions. No, there's, go ahead, Jill.
Can you tell the woman about the Irish bagpipe guy?
I can't. That's really one to be read, but it's a great joke. Next time. Anybody else have a question or a statement? Anything you want to add? Anything you learned during COVID? Nobody learned anything during COVID? Listen, I learned during COVID that I pared down my list when I was looking for 25 qualities in a man. I had 25 things on the list. During COVID, I lowered it to 2. Ambulatory and drives at night. Jill?
One or two jokes from the Sex and Chocolate lecture?
No, Jill, I cannot. I'm asking for people who want to give something, not take something. Anybody have any questions? Well, I would like to tell you in truth, thank God, mostly COVID is gone, and we are experiencing orgasms regularly when we leave the place and can take off our masks. We are getting together more with friends. Bernie has made it possible each year prior to the last two, when we had COVID, to have this wonderful gathering of people who are celebrating life. And what I would like to suggest to you, to make sure that every day is a celebration, number one, make a point of connecting, at least by telephone, with one friend. I have a friend who was supposed to be here today but did not get her vaccination and therefore was not eligible. But I have a friend who I call every single morning at 7 o'clock. And I say, good morning, sunshine, and she says, good morning, wonderful, awesome person. And we just catch up with what we're going to do for that day that's fun, and we hang up. And that way we know that we're going to start off the day talking to somebody that we love, who is up and is going to offer encouragement for us to have a great day. Another thing as we get older, when you go shopping for clothing, don't ever buy anything that doesn't make you smile when you look how you look in the mirror, right? We reflect out how we think we look, and if you feel like you look blah, you are bitchy to everyone, okay? Now, this used to be a real problem to me because my favorite store was Marshall's. And sometimes I bought something because it was marked half price or size 3. But now I have decided it really is worth more just to buy happy things. And I will say probably 20 people already here has commented on how much they like this. And it's not that it's such a beautiful piece, it is that it's bright and happy looking. So you can do that. Buy things that make you feel up, and other people around you will also feel up. And most important, of all the things that you can do to improve your life, the singular most important thing that you can do is to surround yourself with positive people. Because when you surround yourself with negative people, which one of my friends called energy suckers, they drag you down. But when you surround yourself with up people, you smile more, you're happier, and life is just a more bright and happy place to be. So I want to commend Bernie again for the fabulous work she has done all these years in bringing together positive people who know how to celebrate getting older. And if Sylvia is not the perfect model of how we all can expect to be in our hundreds, just keep her picture in your mind. She is like this all the time. All of you, I hope to see you again next year and the year after and the year after, celebrating life. Thank you for being here.
So we're going to wrap things up now after this wonderful day, and we're going to have our drawing for some of our gifts up here. This is going to be the drawing of the cards. You went through our wellness area. You had your cards marked, and they're put in some kind of a...
Just spread them all out, Bernie.
All right, so let's pick number 1.
All right, so close my eyes.
Brenda Eldridge. Francine Gumkowski. Careful, you gotta put your hands underneath this. Beverly McNeil. Beverly McNeil, is she there, here? I think I saw her Parker, but I don't think she's here anymore. Sally Haver. Haveken, Haveken, Sally. Where?
You?
Sally here?
That's her.
Judy Cherleglio.
Here you go, Jim.
Barbara Villico. Barbara Villico. V-I-L-L-E-C. Villico. Charles Criscolo. Dolores Bystrack. B-Y-S-T-R-A-C-K. Dolores. Barbara Penzi. P-E-N-D-Z-I. See her? She's way back there. Barbara Torino. Aura Wilson.
Is there a second month?
One already went.
Oh, wait, okay.
And the last one, Joanne Durand. All right. Thank you all for participating thank you all for participating in the wellness, because you know, every year, and if you hear of other people or if you have any suggestions in another year of the kind of services you want to see there, that's really a learning event. You go through there and you get information, take it home, you can use it today, tomorrow, 5 years from now, but you know some of the services available for seniors and some of the places to live. So if you have ideas of places we might use for wellness, the wellness room, please let people know. Go to our website and give us that information. And now somebody's going to help with this.
Okay, I guess I'll do the raffle. It's $228. So the lucky winner.
All right.
Yeah, big winner.
Come on, before the next event.
Okay, everyone ready? The lucky number is 158510. 158510.
Brenda, you won.
Wow. Win? I'll check. You got it.
Congratulations. Again, from all of us at sea, from all the people who participated, thank you for coming. Sylvia, we're really happy to have given you that award, and we wish you many more years of active life And thank you all for everything you've given, the Brantford Tappers, the Guilford people, everybody. Thank you very much for coming and participating. Have a good day.